to Zero to Hero, Become an AI ProPilot mentorship. We are thrilled to have you on board as we embark on this exciting 8-week journey to unlock the true potential of AI. Throughout this program, you will gain hands on experience and in depth knowledge integrating Microsoft Copilots seamlessly into your workflow to boost work quality and efficiency. By the end of this mentorship, you will be equipped with cutting edge AI tools to boost your productivity and innovation. We are excited to see how you use these tools to transform your daily work, and we are excited to prepare you for the future, a future with AI. Join us.
Okay, it's recording.
Perfect, perfect. All right, this is a little bit of a chaotic, almost like Mission Impossible type of assignment for us. This is the last lesson of the Zero to Hero mentorship on AI. And Mark and I have been battling this team's debacle. At least I am. I think he's ready to go. He's on assignment, all ready, all prepped, and ready to take off. So, Mark Smith, ladies and gentlemen, here with us for the final lesson of the Zero to Hero AI Becoming Pro Pilot. Thank you so much, Mark, for taking the time for doing this for us. It's much appreciated. The floor is yours, my dear friend.
Excellent. Okay, I'll put my screen up, ready to go. Welcome, everybody. I'm excited to take you through this final session about embracing the future and developing an AI mindset, not just for work, but also for your life. And why it's so critically important, because AI is no longer a distant future coming type thing. It is here now. In fact, in 2025, I think what we've seen to date will pale in comparison into the world of agentic AI that we will see come to market end to end in 2025. I think I'm even expecting next week to have some mind-blowing announcements, or see some mind-blowing announcements around agentic AI coming to market. This space is transforming quickly. If you've been watching the news in the last couple of weeks, Google's made some phenomenal announcements. They've gone from they didn't seem to be in the game anywhere like Microsoft or OpenAI or even Anthropic for that matter with Claude, but things are changing incredibly fast in the last couple of weeks, and I think that's just going to increase massively as we go into 2025. Now, my question to you is this. In the AI wave that we are currently in, do you have your surfboard in the garage? Is it at home? You've got it polished, you've got it waxed, you've got it ready to go, you've got your wetsuit ready, and that's the depth of your knowledge on AI. You're learning the theory, you're seeing the news cycles, but are you baking it into be every part of your life? Are you getting on the surfboard? Are you getting out there and riding the wave and practically seeing how this applies to your world? Now, so I want you to really think about, when you think about AI in life or work, how does it apply to you practically? How are you doing AI? How are you engaging with AI? If you look at your phone, if I was to open your phone right now, and I'll bring up mine as an example, you will see on the speed rail here is, in my case, OpenAI. ChatGPT is sitting there. I can go bang, I'm into it. Today, I've probably done over 15 prompts already. I switch often into voice mode, and, I have a conversation. I love this kind of camera feature where I can go in and I can look right now at my live session and I can communicate and ask what's going on in the situation. Just this week, I was at a party that had a candy floss machine that was clogging up. I just turned on the camera, I pointed it, and in no time at all, it told me how to clean it. It understood that it was a candy floss machine that I was working with. So I am finding that AI has been immersed into every part of my life. So 2 questions right now. Is AI on the speed rail of your phone? Okay, the number 1 app on your phone. Is it on the speed rail of your desktop? Do you have Copilot? One click away, you're in and you're interacting with it, because it has to be that kind of accessible for you to start embedding it into every part of your life. Now, one of the observations I have made in moving from theory to practice is that a lot of people, they dabble with AI and their perception is not what they thought they would get. Now, on screen, you can see Rembrandt's The Night Watch. It's one of the most famous paintings in the world. The price on this is in the hundreds of millions of dollars if it ever came on sale. It wouldn't ever come on sale. But at the end of the day, if we break this into its component parts, it is a canvas that has paint on it that a painter, in this case Rembrandt, used paintbrushes to paint and create this incredible work of art. One of the features of this work of art is the use of lighting and shadows in the design. He actually created this piece in his 30s, midway through his career. But by that point, he had created and painted a phenomenal amount of works to get to that point. Why is this important? Because if we look at you and how you're using AI and how the people around you use AI, often there is no thought of iteration, right? What I did is I took that image and I got AI to create what a 5-year-old might create of that artwork. And of course, what I'm showing here is that a 5-year-old could have the same canvas, the same paintbrushes and the same paint, but they're going to produce a way different result because of their understanding and their experience with that technology. I then said, hey, give me somebody that's 10 years old and let's see how they, taking these materials, might build out the Night Watch. And this is what I got. Okay, that's another 5 years improvement on skill set. I then said, okay, give us another 10 years. And you can see now, now we're talking, 15 odd years of work, and we can see this improvements, but still a long shot off this masterpiece that Rembrandt created. And why I say that is, depending on how much you're interfacing with AI on a day-by-day basis will affect the results you get. If you are dabbling, if you're spending a small amount of time on it, if you're only doing it for customer projects, you're not living AI. You're not embracing it like you should be. You're not going to become a master craftsperson in this technology unless you start applying it to every facet of your life and start making it as an extension of yourself. Now, if you're worried about technology being an extension of yourself, I quickly ask you how often you use this, because right now, this is an incredible extension of me. It manages my schedule. It manages my email communication. It manages my instant messenger communication, WhatsApp. It manages all the different type of, like, my health app is on there that I have my doctor's medical notes on. It has a phenomenal amount of data available to it, and its extension, it's my second brain, right, is contained on that device. What I am suggesting is that you need to move up your engagement level with AI just to stay up with the changes and the phenomenal speed that things are changing at. One of the challenges AI, and particularly the chat experience we've had, is that people liken it to a search engine. On screen here, you can see the experience you would get if you accessed Google and you asked a question. We did a search and find some websites and off we go. We have got voice in there. We've got the ability to upload an image and do an image search. And that is the experience. The problem is the chat experience looks very similar. And people are engaging with these Copilot, with ChatGPT, as though it's a Q&A engine. Because that's our experience for the last 10, 15 years in search engines, that we ask it questions, we get answers, and we've got to filter through those results. The problem, because of the similarity, people get one of two outcomes. One, they think it's magic. right? The result comes back and they're like, wow, that's incredible. The alternative is, oh, this is crap. This is nowhere near as good as what I thought. I thought it'd be a more intelligent. But my premise to you is that perhaps the way you're conversing with the tool is not on par, and your skill set needs to come up, and the people that are around you that you're influencing in this area need to move to this conversation type model of experience. What I like to think about is C3PO is sitting on my monitor, right? And so I know it's not a person. I know it's fully electronic machine. And I'm going to have a conversation and tap into the wealth of knowledge and patterns and processes and information it has in how I converse with it.
I see your point, sir.
Thank you, C3PO. Very nice of you to say so. So it's time to change your mindset about how you interact with technology. Let me give you another illustration of this. Let's say I gave you 10 ingredients and said, I want you to create an amazing dish. And you're not a foodie, you're not into, you're a foodie from a consumer perspective, but perhaps you're not a cook, you're not a chef. And if I gave you these ingredients and then I gave them to a Michelin star chef, right, the results, the output are going to be quite different. We've got the same ingredient mix, but somebody has had much more experience, has much more experimentation under their belt, and create a much better result. So my encouragement to you again, you need to be experimenting in every facet of your life. I see too many consultants in our arena that they practice it in their work life, but they don't practice it in their home life, in every interaction that they have, and go, okay, how could AI support what I'm doing? How could I bring or get better or understand it better or get better results in what I am doing? The quality of your prompt equals the quality of your results. One of the things I always do in prompting these days is I conclude my prompt with, before you respond, is there any clarifying questions you want to ask me? Please ask me them one at a time so that I might respond. And once you're happy that you have the clarification you need, I want you to rewrite the prompt with that clarification included, and then we will run the prompt and see the results. I've learned to do this over time because it gets me much better results. It's not allowing AI to go, you know what? I'm just going to use the information you provided, but I do have some clarifying questions. I'm really forcing that clarification of questions and how I engage. You need to stay curious with AI. You need to be thinking about, hey, I never know that I've reached it, right? I've never got to the point that I understand all I can understand. For me, it's an iterative process of practice, practice, practice. I keep exploring. I keep trying it for new ideas and new ways of working with it. Just recently, I used it to write a full economic forecast, business plan for a product that I have a trademark on, a brand, etc. It was able to do the full valuation. I said, I now want you to act like a business analyst, and I want you to critique and find fault in any of my logic and thinking about this solution that I'm bringing to market. It then came up and found the gaps and the things that I needed to prioritize. I said, listen, this valuation, I took it then to another model, and I said, listen, here's a business plan that I've created. I used AI to assist me in creating it. I took it to another one and said, now, you're an expert business analyst that is designed to find problems in a business opportunity that is presented so that I can go back to the person that has provided this and question them about that type of functionality that they are suggesting. It came up with a whole bunch of gaps. In this case, I was using Claude to be the interrogator of something that I had done in Copilot. And so I was able to refine, and the end result I got was an amazing 30-page brief of this business idea that I was able then to send off to a graphic designer, have the prospectus all done up and ready with the valuation, with the financial metrics, because I've got people wanting to buy this concept off me, right? They have approached me, and I was like, I've had this idea for 15 odd years, and I've used AI to put that whole business solution together. And the amount that I'm going to make off it is over $1 million for a day's work of intense querying backwards and forwards with AI and development. I have basically leveraging time like I've never been able to leverage before. I've been able to tap into expertise like that critical analysis, like I got it to take the product and find out all the competitors of it around the world and find out what the points of difference. I had a subscription model in there. I got it to validate it and do the price metrics. I got it to build out what the organizational structure, what are the roles that we need to hire in year 1, year 2, year 3. The detail was phenomenal, right? I don't have those skills. I've not had them, but I know enough to be able to validate, is the results it giving me correct? Now, I'm interested if any of you know this guy here, right? This guy is in the top 100 most influential people in AI right now. His name is Dario Amodei, and with his sister, they created Anthropic. Right? And Anthropic, just to give you a bit more background about Dario, from, I think it was, let me just check here my data. Oops, I scrolled the wrong thing. Let me just back up here a second. In 2016, he joined OpenAI. And sorry, 2016 to 2021, he was part of OpenAI, and then him and his sister split off and they built what we know as Anthropic now. He started with Baidu, which is a Chinese company, after he came out of Stanford, and particularly his area of research in Stanford was a medical research. And he's created an amazing AI organization, even though I have actually stopped my subscription to Claude. I have used it a lot, and I use it for validation from time to time. But he recently wrote an incredible piece called Machines of Loving Grace. And just so you know, at the end of this presentation, I'm going to give you a QR code, and in that QR code will take you to a blog that I've written about this presentation. And in that will be links to Dario and to anything I'm referencing through this presentation that you can go and do more research on as needed. I just published that this morning on my blog. Now, so he created this thought piece called Machines of Loving Grace. And in it, he highlighted 5 visions of a future that AI is going to have massive impact on. The first one was health. The second area was around your mind. The third area was around economy or finance or structures. The fourth one was in the area of governance. And the final one was in regards to work. What does work look like? And it's worth unpacking these, not from the theory of how this is going to affect the world, but what I did was apply it to how it's going to affect Mark. What does this mean for me? What action do I need to take in the first instance? And so I started with health and mind. Now, when I set goals for any year, and I'm just going through my 2025 goal setting, the number one top tier priority for me, and I started last year and I will continue this year, the number one goal in my life is health. It's not money. It's not my relationships with other people. My number one priority in life is my health, because it has a time limit on it. It affects everything else I do, is how I look after this body. In this past year, I've dropped 15 kgs as I've started to realign the importance of, if I keep my body in tip-top condition, one of my guiding, if you like, stars, my North Star in this, is, am I physically the best version of me? Now, I'm 53 years old. I'm not a spring chicken. I've been around a long time. Yet right now, I am more healthy than I was 10 years ago. And I feel like in 2025, I will become even more healthy. I will become fitter than what I am. Now, I don't subscribe to diets or anything like that. But after reading Dario's piece, I then took that section of his report, I put it into AI, and then I put a lot of my data, because I collect data on apps and stuff about my health. And we started to create a tailored plan for me around what I eat, around all my calorie intake, around the fitness that I do, the walks, the exercises, and everything I started, but it was 100% tailored to me. It doesn't involve any diets. It doesn't involve any gym workouts or anything like that. But I am moving my body in a tailored program for me. And one of the things I had to instruct AI in it was like, listen, you're going to have a lot of marketing material in your knowledge base around, the best, the carnivore diet, you name the diet right out there. I don't want any of that marketing crap in how you respond to me. I want you to be really refined. And I put in, like, I take a bunch of vitamin supplements and stuff. I gave it the amounts I was taking. It said, hey, you need to adjust this. You need to move that to morning, move that, taking that tonight. And you know what? You should add these 2 extra supplements for you based on where you are. And like the impact I am feeling is amazing. But like if I had just read that paper and go, oh, awesome, it's going to transform cancer research. It's going to transform heart disease research and stuff. I am looking at it as an external thing that's not affecting me. But what I have done is internalized it, I've personalized it. I'm working with AI, giving it the data about me, and to actually go, hey, how do I create the best version of me? Now, of course, this then flows into my mind, right? My second goal tier when I set yearly goals is how can I improve this thing that operates between my 2 ears? How can I get better? How can I improve the liveliness, right? The connections, the firings of my brain, the innovations that it comes up with. How can I improve it? How can I become more knowledgeable? How can I think in ways I haven't thought before? How to become a more critical thinker to drive value and keep this brain alive, because I know that within it is a lot of innovative ideas, but I need to create a framework to get it out. So I've been doing a lot of research and applying it to myself around meditation, around how do I stop garbage going into my mind that's going to not allow my mind to perform at the top level, right? My goals carry on. They go into things like relationships and all that type of stuff. But I just wanted to highlight these 2 because I fundamentally believe that life expectancy is going to increase in an AI world. So where I've always known, I've known in my Noah that I'm probably not going to die to 100. I've never felt that I've never had a medical condition. I've never been for an operation. I've always felt that I'm going to live to 100. And when I turned 50, I determined that I was going to become a lot more healthier in my latter 50 years than in my first 50 years. I was going to live a lot more with purpose and do the things that drove value, not only to myself, but to the people around me and to the world, right? So I believe that with medical research and the speed that, and you once again, read the health paper that he's written in there, you will see the possibilities that are already starting to happen in health research, and the ability to extend life age might well beyond 100 in the next 20 odd years. So I want to be the best me that I possibly can be for that. Also, it's changed my goal setting attitudes, knowing I have a longer time frame to work within rather than a shorter time frame. So I feel like the time I hit 100, I'll probably be as healthy as I am when I'm 20. And that's something that I am aligning with both health and mind. The next area I want to look at is financial freedom and work. These 2 areas are critically important because the way you're going to earn money going forward in an AI and particularly an agentic world is going to totally change, because the model you work on right now is you trade an hour for a dollar amount. Most people trade time for money. So what happens if you can put an hour in but produce 10 hours of output because you've got 10 agents working for you all doing an hour in parallel with your hour? What is the possibility of that? What is the implication of that? For me, I don't want to be working for a corporation under that model, because who's going to benefit for that additional 10 hours of output? They are. Where I want to be the beneficiary of my thinking, of my creating of AI agents that are going to work as an extension of what I want to do. It's interesting that the founder of LinkedIn has recently said that by 2035 in the US, over 50% of the workforce will be independent contractors. I think that's an awesome opportunity for you and me to benefit from the skills that we learn of creating agents that facilitate or augment what you and I do each and every day. Now, the impact of that is going to be massive from a financial perspective. Because all of a sudden, rather than earning the $200,000 to $300,000 you earn a year as a consultant or whatever your role is, all of a sudden you could put your output potential earnings at $1 million. Right? We're going to move into an age of abundance if you start thinking and aligning your thoughts and using AI to help you get into the state of abundance and financing whatever you need to do. Remember, money is just a construct. It's just a trading tool. It's fluid, right? It just enables things that we want to do and achieve and scale. So what does that look like for you? How do you think about your finance? About 5 years ago, my wife and I started really getting financially literate. We started going, listen, our parents never brought us up to be financially literate. We started changing everything. In the last 5 years, we've eliminated debt from our life. We don't even have credit cards anymore. And I used to have about $100,000 worth of credit limits available to me based on my earning potentials. Bank said, have more, have more, have more. Now I work on a model of operating debt-free and scaling every year. My income earning potential leapfrogs. It goes up and up and up because I'm thinking differently. I'm no longer just trading time for money. I'm creating assets that generate money over time. And don't get confused. I'm not talking about traditional assets like real estate and things like that. I'm talking about digital, electronic assets, things that can have increasing value with scale over time. The one area that he talks about is government. And this is different, right? As in from a, can I act on it right now? I use it as purely as an observation, how governments are changing and evolving. What are you going to do when the number of people working per, an hour a day starts dropping because agents are taking those roles? How do you tax a base of people when they're working less hours, and how does the economy continue to run from a government and paying for the services, etc., that a government provide through taxes when the population is being taxed at a lower and lower rate because less and less people are working? Right now in New Zealand with electric cars, there used to be tax applied on the petrol that was put into a car. Now all these people have got electric cars. How is the government taxing those electric cars? They're not at the moment. I'm expecting legislation's going to change. And so all those, what in New Zealand we call road user charges, that is a tax that's applied on every litre of petrol that you put in your car, a percentage of it is road user taxes. But if you're not putting petrol into your car, how can the government collect that money? So they're going to have to come up with new taxes. And so when I think of governments, I'm going to think, how are they going to tax agents? Right? Because that's going to evolve in the way money is collected. If we're working less hours but making more money, but the method of taxation is based on that 1 hour and that dollar return, what's going to change? Let's switch gears and now let's look at agents. And what really are agents? Because at the moment, agents are becoming very, very focused, particularly from Microsoft at the moment around Copilot agents. What they're calling autonomous agents, I would beg to differ. They are not autonomous. They're really rule-based agents. They offer fixed instruction. They have no learning capability. Yes, they can have a large language model connected with Copilot Studio. But the example I will give you here of a rule-based agent, there's 3 agent types I'm going to cover here, is like a thermostat control in your house. If the temperature goes above this point, turn the air conditioning on. If it drops below this point, turn it off. Or think of spam filters in your email. If it meets this pattern, it's spam. Let's put it in the spam bin. If it doesn't, let it through. Or customer support chatbot, right? You interact with it. It checks its knowledge base. It's looking for phrases. It's looking for triggers, right, from a Copilot perspective. And it responds with the knowledge set that is particular to it. But it's only a rule-based agent. Now, at the moment, Microsoft always has this, the marketing is trying to get out in front of where the world is thinking, and the reality is the engineering, I don't think, is quite there yet. When we look at the next type of agents that we can think of. We have semi-autonomous agents. It learns, but it still requires human input, right? They get feedback from data. They could improve that over time. But examples of this that we would see are, for example, autonomous vehicles, where they can do, let's say, back into a parking space or call them over to you, what we can do with some vehicles, but you can take over. The steering wheel's still there. You can still intervene and work and override the system as necessary. Or if we look at RPA, robotic process automation, where a human still has to input data, has to trigger something to kick off, but there's still a human in the loop component. There might be, when you go to make a transaction at an online store, that it might be able to go, hey, here's your stored credit card, here's all your addressing and information. But the final step is I'm going to always get you to enter your CVC code just to make sure that someone hasn't hacked into your system and automating this send out as part of it. You can also have AI-powered customer support assistant, right? With a human in the loop. So you can be on a call at a contact center. The AI is listening to the conversation, prompting the person around possible outcomes, but the person is still going to, say, hey, I recommend this, or I recommend that, even though they're being massively assisted in AI as part of that process. And that AI might learn from the outcomes of it and improve the information it provides to other people in that call center over time. We see it in smart watering systems. I have automated watering systems on my property, and I already have it integrated with the weather station on my property. And so if there's a high degree of likelihood of rain, my sprinkler system's not going to come on. But some days it rains in the morning and I can see by afternoon it's still too dry. I'm then going to manually intervene and say, hey, you need to do some watering now because I think the ground or my plants or my vegetables are going to need that more water. The next area is, of course, fully autonomous. Right? And fully autonomous, which we're seeing Microsoft talk about autonomous agents, and why I don't think they're there, because autonomous agents don't need a human in the loop. Now, just think about that for a moment. We remove a human in the loop, so now it can make its own decisions. Now it can learn from past behaviors and events, and it can remember and start improving on how it operates over time. In fact, it can probably eliminate time to some degree and iterate at a much faster rate and learn at a much faster rate. And this is going to impact every Power App, every Power Automate tool you build in the future once we see this autonomous nature come in. Because it's going to be able to improve interfaces on the fly. It's going to be able to improve automations on the fly. It's going to be able to find what we use in mining, automation mining. It's going to be able to identify it, act on it, and improve a process to make it more efficient with time. So examples that would be autonomous lawnmowers, right? It could go out, find out just the patches of grass that need mowing, only mow those areas and go back to the station. It can monitor the weather patterns as part of it. Is it too wet to mow the grass? Okay, I won't do it today, but you could just set it up and say, okay, it's switched on. You can auto charge. You can go out and learn from how my lawn performs in different areas and build that into your knowledge bank over time. You could use it around automated quality inspection and manufacturing, right? To identify defects and go, you know what? We need to fix something way back up the manufacturing process so these defects stop happening. And then it implements those those recommendations from the quality inspections back into the solutions, building it out. It might be a new die needs to be built slightly differently to be able to reduce the defects. And it could automatically order that, send a change order in, get it updated. AI-driven fraud detection is in finance, we're seeing having massive impacts. Just recently in Australia, the impact is over 70% reduction in fraud being committed because AI has been implemented as part of the fraud detection process, and it's learning to changes in the way cybercrime is being committed. There's a lot of ways this will apply, and I want you to think about autonomous being no human in the loop when it actually comes to building solutions. So as we push forward here, and you look at what your role is, if you come from a Power Platform or a Dynamics part of the ecosystem where you're wanting to learn more about AI, traditionally we've come from a code-first approach where we've written all the code to build solutions. And then in 2016, which was really an extension of something that happened back in 2003, Microsoft came out with this concept of low code, where you didn't have to know how to code something, but you can know that, you needed a field, you needed to put some parameters around it, and behind the scenes, it would build out the code to make that a reality. And with what we've had with Power Apps and the Power Platform since 2016 was this ability to create low-code apps and solutions. But I suggest to you that within 5 years, if you're currently working with tools that are low-code tools like Power Apps and Power Automate and Power Pages and such, none of us will be doing that. And the reason is we will be working with an AI agent and directing the curation of multiple solutions and automation. So I'm not saying Power Apps or Power Automate is dead. That's not what I'm saying. These tools will still exist, except for you and I won't interact with them anymore on a configuration or defining them. Because under this world, things like real-time updates of how people are using the system, in other words, being able to have the person that uses this on a day-to-day, having their feedback and how they're interacting with that screen will be built in by default. How that automation is actually running into a blocker will be able to be identified and fixed in real time. So the whole ALM process in an AI-driven world is going to dramatically change in the speed that it will be able to apply it. Will the principles of ALM go away? Absolutely not. It's just the you and I interaction of what we do when we build an automation or build an app or a solution for a customer is going to totally change. Now, if that's the case, and this is your core set of what you're doing now, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I suggest there are 4 things that you need to get really good at to make yourself continually employable. The first one is data. You need to get really good at understanding data, data sets, data curation, data endpoints. You need to understand the difference between data and synthetic data, and how synthetic data is going to make up a big part of our data going forward. Because right now, LLMs have run out of the training data that exists in the world that was available on the internet. And so we're going to see synthetic data, and what is the implication of that? And how does it apply to the projects, etc., that we work on? But I suggest that you go out and really start understanding data, understanding metadata, understanding how data interacts with data. What does clean data, unbiased data look like? Right? Develop your data skills is going to be a critical thing, because what you're going to be able to need to do is curate and validate what the AI is doing in context of the data that you work with. The next area that you need to develop your skill sets in is security, cybersecurity particularly. And what does security look like in a world where speed is increasing all the time and sophistication of hackers is increasing all the time? The CVP of Microsoft Security just said at Ignite that if cybercrime was a nation state in the world, it would be the 3rd largest in the world based on GDP, the amount of money that criminal activity is generating. Now, let me put that in perspective. The US is the largest. Number 2 is China. Number 3 is Germany. So between China and Germany on GDP, cybercrime currently sits right there. And so if you think that cyber criminals are not tapping into AI for nefarious means, they absolutely are. So the game is changing at a phenomenal rate or not. You can no longer, if you're in a technology space or role, or if you're looking at how the future of you operates, you need to make sure that you're getting up and really understanding security. You don't have to become a security expert, but you need to understand security implications when it comes to AI, when it comes to data, when it comes to organizations. The third skill set that I don't think AI is just going to nail tomorrow is user experience. Because it's an evolving thing, user experience. And I think it's kind of what you need to know what good user experience looks like. And that's what I mean is that because AI is not necessarily going to give the best user experience from the get-go, and all these things, you need to know what the definition of good is when it comes to data, when it comes to security, when it comes to UX. You need to understand that for you. My neighbor is a lawyer, And she was like, I used ChatGPT the other day and I felt like I was cheating because I asked it a legal thing and the answer that came back was incredibly accurate and on point. And I feel like I was cheating because I used AI. And I said, listen, if I had tried to do what you did with AI from a legal perspective, it would have been, I couldn't validate it because I don't have the legal expertise to go, is this correct or is this hallucination? Right? You need to be able to go, is this user experience correct or is it not? Is this security correct or is it not? Is this data correct or is it not? Because you have enough experience to have a red flag when you sense that something's not quite right. And you're going to be orchestrating these three areas with AI as you progress. And the third skill that I don't think is going away in a hurry is people skills. And the need to actually get really, really, really good at people skills. Engaging with people face to face over media like this. You need to become so comfortable in front of a camera that you can do it in a heartbeat at any time. I set myself a challenge about 3 or 4 months ago to shoot 1 video a day and post it on TikTok for 100 days straight. Now, it wasn't to grow a community or an audience over there because I was talking about technical things and I don't think the demographic is over there. I was doing it so I got comfortable at picking up my phone and being able to record a short, concise 30 to 90 video on a topic so that I became comfortable with it. Because I feel that in the coming years, our ability to communicate via screen and on camera is so critically important. I just saw a content of an MVP shot yesterday, and I noticed that he wasn't comfortable with his camera. He was at an airport and he was talking, but he was looking at himself on the screen. When you get comfortable with the camera, you got to realize that you got to look down the barrel of the camera, right? You would have noticed in this presentation, I'm looking down the barrel of the camera. I'm looking at you. I'm not looking over here, which is where Teams is for me on my screen. I'm looking up here where my presentation is. I'm looking at where you are. Right? Because I'm wanting to communicate with you as part of this presentation. And this people skill element is something that's going to be critically important in your skill set moving forward. As I draw to conclusion, everything is innovating faster. You need to fail faster, you need to pivot quickly, and you need to alter everything that you're doing in your life as these changes happen. Don't get caught of, oh my gosh, I missed the boat on that. And I'm talking particularly around AI here. You need to be practicing every day. You can't put it off to a future date. You need to be practicing now. You need to be embedding this. At the start of this year, I talked about you should be doing 5 prompts a day. In my work life now, I'm up to probably about 10 prompts an hour. I am using it constantly in everything I do. And it is improving in what I am doing because I'm getting a better understanding of what good, the definition of good looks like in what I do. Couple of things that you need to get really good understanding on. One is context window. Copilot has one of the lowest context windows in the market. And the issue with this is that you might provide data and think that you're querying over that data set as part of a RAG process, for example, but it actually is dropping off the tail end of that data because the context window is too small. Now, some things require small context. You don't need a large context window. But basically, you've got to think of context window of how much information, how many files can I have open my desk that I'm researching at the moment? And if my desk is only a certain size and some files fall off the edge and I'm no longer using them as part of my research, my context window is too small. Right? So understand context window. Understand that different products have different context windows. You need to understand it always relevant to what you're doing. Is a context window large enough for what I'm doing? Because it's its ability to understand the whole body of work that you're working on in context of that. You need to think about static versus dynamic memory and the differences of what they mean, because they're going to become a much more part of how we think in 2025. Think of static in memory as I hire a personal assistant and I say, hey, my name is Mark Smith. That's static information. It ain't changing that I know of from this point forward. Dynamic memory is that as that personal assistant works with me and sees my habits and what time I do things and how I respond to things, etc., that person would start to learn and would call that dynamic memory. Mark, when he goes out to town, he likes to stay in this type of accommodation. When he flies on an aircraft, he prefers an aisle seat rather than a window seat. I didn't explicitly say that, but out of our conversations, I might have said, hey, I prefer aisle seat. From using dynamic memory, it says, hey, let's update that. Mark prefers aisle seat. I'm never going to ever try to put him in a window seat again, right? That is dynamic versus static memory. It learns. And we're going to see dynamic memory come a lot more into how we engage with AI. Next is retrieval augmented generation, right? RAG. And the ability to fine tune our prompts over data that you have. You need to get good at understanding RAG in context of context windows, and really being able to validate when you provide your information as part of the loop. Is it using all of it, or is it limiting actually at stretch? How are you going to validate that? So you need to get good at RAG as part of your thinking in AI. Next, contextual shortcuts are going to totally change the game. What's a contextual shortcut? Is basically having the context of where and what at the point that I'm asking a question, which might even take into my tone of voice, but it will basically interact with AI much differently. And let me give you an example. A contextual shortcut is that if I'm in my office and I have an AI assistant, well, not really. I've got Google Home sitting on my desk here. Now, when I ask it something and I say one of my routine commands, it knows that I am in this room, and therefore it has a context of doing it in the context of this room, like turning on lights. It's not going to turn on lights in the other room. It says the context of where I'm asking it, the speaker is here. That's a contextual shortcut. Now apply that to every part of your life. The context of where your location is based on where you are on your phone, and you say, listen, I need a burger right now. And it doesn't go, well, where are you? It's got the location awareness, and it says, well, you're asking for a burger, and in reference to where you're standing right now, I'm going to give that information. Contextual shortcuts is going to apply to everything that we do. It might include weather patterns. It might include location information. It might include temperature data. There's so many parts of contextual awareness that will come into everyday life. The next thing I want you to really think about as we go into 2025 is the voice becoming the interface and how that changes things. Just recently, I was out in my greenhouse and I was planting a range of seeds, a range of different herbs in little planters, that I'm going to propagate in my greenhouse. And I was able to switch on. In this case, I used ChatGPT. I was able to go to the voice functionality. I was able to put it up on my shelf because my hands were busy. In fact, I had gloves on doing what I was doing. And I would say, listen, I would read out the seed packet name and I would say, how do I optimize the planting of this seed for germination to happen? And it would say in some, you need to go 5 mils below the surface, create a divot. You need to put a little this type of material over the top, a bit of sand or something else, rather than some would say, listen, you need to leave that seed right on the surface because it needs sun to germinate. Others would say you need to take it and put it in the refrigerator for 2 months because it needs what's called cold stratification. Now, I'm having this conversation over the course of an hour with voice only, interacting backwards and forwards. And I learned a whole different way of communicating with AI because of voice. It's going to add context awareness because it's going to know where the microphone is. When you have cameras on, it's going to know where you are in context of that camera. Another new feature, as I say, coming out, being able to turn on your camera, give it context of where you are, and being able to interact with that is becoming such an important element of what we do going forward. So I suggest you need to get comfortable at using voice as an interface. It should be second nature. Just like I've got comfortable with speaking in front of a camera, I'm getting comfortable in talking to AI from a voice perspective. Because as we go into the world of agentic AI in 2025, a lot more of that is going to be voice generated or engaged with. Right? I'm going to have an agent next year that's going to be my call center agent. Mark Smith's going to have a call center agent. It's going to sample all the podcasts I've been doing for the last 7 years. Doesn't even need that information. And it's going to create a synthetic version of Mark Smith's voice. And then let's say I'm contacting my airline because I think they've made a mistake, and I'd go to their contact center and I'd wait for 45 minutes to even get my call answered. I'll send my agent, my call center agent, to do that on my behalf. It'll talk like it's Mark Smith. It'll have my same voice. It'll have all my details of my airline status, all my airline numbers, etc. But it'll also have gone out and researched all that airline's policy in detail and all what I know I can claim, what I know I can get. And then I'll give it 5 books on negotiation and say, your job is to negotiate the best outcome for me. Right? And it'll be I could send it to my telco company. I could send it to my internet provider company. I could send it to my insurance company, as in get it to contact them, act on my behalf, and facilitate the outcomes that I want, but with all the knowledge of their data sets that are in the public domain, as well as being a master negotiator. And of course, voice is all going to be part of that, right? You can now get voice-to-voice APIs, which will allow you to facilitate that came out about 3 months ago, which will allow in an agentic world for you to communicate via voice. And I know that most contact centers are going to take 3 to 5 years to catch up, to be able to identify whether, and of course, my AI voice would have got better over that time and be harder to detect. Another thing that you need to get really clear on with data is this concept that came out in the 1960s, which is garbage in, garbage out, right? It applies more than ever in an AI world. When people complain that, oh, it's hallucinating and it's not what I expected, well, if there's garbage in the data set, your output's going to be garbage as well. So I want you to be thinking about data sets, and that's why I talked about data early on, the quality of data. And as we move through towards the end here, I want you to also start getting on your radar around the concept of trustworthy AI. Trustworthy AI is going to be super critical in the coming years, and you can't delegate this to somebody else because you're going to be working with the AI, you're going to be creating solutions with AI, and therefore you need to know what trustworthy AI looks like. You need to understand whether the data and the outputs and the inputs that are going in include fairness and inclusiveness. Or is there bias in that mix? You need to understand the concept of transparency in the answers. And I tell you, the more that neural networks advance, transparency becomes harder and harder to identify. So we need to be more vigilant. Accountability around AI is going to be super critical. In Canada, we saw the airline that had an AI chatbot that made decisions that were not in favor of the airline and that went to court, and the court upheld, well, you created the AI, you implemented it, you need to stand behind what it's doing. Accountability becomes super important. And then privacy and security. One of the challenges of Copilot being run out inside a lot of organizations is privacy of that internal data. A lot of PII data is sitting in plain sight. Nobody's been able to access it because of a concept of security by obscurity. Nobody knew how to query it. AI has an uncanny ability to bring a whole bunch of dot points together and go, here's a picture that you didn't even realize it was in the data set of your organization. That's a massive challenge. In fact, when Copilot was implemented in Microsoft over a year ago, they went through a 1-year sprint phase of patching all the different data sets in the organization that had always been there internally, but now AI allowed it to be exposed or surfaced up in such a simple format that a new layer of security needed to be overlaid in that organization. And then reliability and safety. Can we depend on it? Can we make sure it's not hallucinating? Is it safe? Is it going to do any harm? Now, if you're Microsoft, you're doing this we're providing the service level. If you're a Microsoft partner, you've got to see in what you create, what are the implication of these 5 layers mean as a partner, and then as an end user, what is the implication of these 5 layers? If you look at that, what backs this up then is this framework for trustworthy AI. And now, as I say, on my blog site, I'm going to provide you a bunch of resources so you can go do some more research on this. Most of them are Microsoft-related resources. But how are you building education and training into your processes, particularly in your organizations that you work for? Continuous monitoring. How are you monitoring? But not only monitoring, but providing feedback loops for people when something isn't right, that it can be surfaced up in action. It's not just going into the ether and nothing has been done about it. Stakeholder enablement and engagement. How is that being done? Are you just providing the search bar or the chat box out there and going, hey, hopefully you work out how it works? And even though it looks like your Google experience, it works way different, but you're not enabling the stakeholders. You're not engaging with them. You're not increasing their AI literacy by at least 30% each year. What about ethical guidelines? facial recognition changes the game. Voice recognition changes the game. What's the ethical implication of that, right? These hadn't been considered PII data points that an organization might have been capturing in the past. Now, when a Teams meeting is recorded, all that data has been included. What's the implication of that? And then make sure you have diverse teams, right? Don't just stick with one team format or the people personas, etc., that you're engaging. Make sure you bring a lot of stakeholders into the mix, because they all will come with very different perspectives in how you build trustworthy AI. Red teaming and chaos engineering, get across it. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because we're at time. Comprehensive scope. You need to be able to understand that red teaming continues to evolve over time. It's not always one and done. You need to red team anything that you're doing on an ongoing basis. You need to look at how you can automate red teaming as part of it, as well as totally updating with the changes, etc., that are happening and the advancements that are happening around responsible AI. You need to include a diverse perspective in red teaming. Think of it from an adversarial outside your organization, in other words, cyber hacker, that type of thing, as somebody not knowing that they're doing activity inside an organization, sharing information, etc., that might be confidential, private, and or proprietary from an IP perspective. The next you've got to look at is continuous evaluation of how you're red teaming and your AI solutions as they evolve. Regular assessments, automated monitoring, help maintain security and effectiveness over time. Think about probabilistic testing, right? Due to non-deterministic nature of generative AI, multiple testing iterations are necessary to uncover the potential issues. This both affects the inputs and the outputs of what you do. And the final one here is defense in depth. Mitigating AI failures requires a layered approach, including technical safeguards like classifiers, mega prompts and meta prompts adjustments, prompt poisoning, a whole areas that you need to start developing your skill set in. I've provided links to red teaming, as I say, in that blog post, as well as chaos engineering, intentionally trying to break the system so that you can identify and put safeguards in place. In 2025, we're going into a world where you need to become a master AI orchestrator. You're going to have multiple agents working with you. My goal is by the end of Q1 to have at least 10 agents operating on my behalf, and I'll scale that over 2025. I need to have a coordination mechanism, how I'll have a master coordinator agent that knows who to fire off to the various workloads I assign to it. So that task distribution that you're seeing there. You need about dynamic adaptation, the ability for your agent framework that you put in place to feed back to the master agent that, hey, this is not my type of work. It needs to be handed off to another agent. And then performance and monitoring and constantly improving what you're doing. You should be starting to think about this, right? For the last 3 months, I've been writing standard operating procedures for everything I do. And I'm actually using a virtual assistant in another country to implement all my SOPs. And guess what? They're finding the breakpoints in them, and they're finding the errors. They're improving them. Why? Because when agents come along, I'm going to have an SOP that's been tested over time with people that I can hand to it and go, there you go, take that over, own it, adjust it, improve on it. But I've already done like 3 months of testing on many of my, and I'm talking about all my personal SOPs for everything from handling email to handling chat responses to handling how I engage on various social media platforms to how I post videos on YouTube, SOPs, right? And I'm getting people to do them because I know that this is coming and I want to make sure that I have documented and got it all ready for that agentic world that I'm moving into. I close with this. Don't just follow, be a pioneer, right? Be the expert for you in AI. Stay at the cutting front edge of it. Learn it all. I love that quote from Satya, 10 years ago when he came in. Have a learn it all attitude. Learn everything you can about it. Learn, experiment, and evolve. Be hungry for understanding this new world, this new frontier that we're in. So much is going to change in the next 5 years. And as I wrap up, I was going to ask you a range of questions. Like, what do you think the impact is of AI in your future world? But we've not got time for that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump through here And let me just jump through to homework. Here's your homework. First of all, that QR code or that bit.ly link will take you to the blog post I've written on this. There are 3 books I recommend that you read. I read heaps of books on AI all the time. These 3 are the 3, though, if I've my curated list, I would say you need to read. Nexus comes out this year, as it came out this year. This guy, I've read 3 of his other books. Amazing, amazing author. But I highly recommend, because he looks at history and then the implication of what it means on the future in an AI world. AI 2041 was published in 2021. Remember, when we're in the midst of COVID. And Kai-Fu Lee, what he wanted to do, and this guy's a famous guy, he's in the top 100 influencers in AI. He used to work at Google. And what he comes out with is 10 case studies of the future. And why he said 2041, because he said, if I said this is going to happen in the next 100 years, you and I would go, you know what, doesn't apply to me. So he wanted to do it something that would happen in our lifetime. And he looks at all things like quantum computing. He looks at things like, fully autonomous vehicles, fully autonomous humanoid bots. What will it mean? What will it mean for Bitcoin in the next 20 years? Right? What is the impact of that going to be? What is it going to mean on health? And I love it. Each chapter is one specific scenario, and it will blow your mind. And for me, it made, I read this maybe 2 years ago. It filled me with hope about what the future is about. And the next one is Super Intelligence. It's a big book. The starting chapter, once you read it, it will mind and what it means when we get to a super intelligent situation, and what the impact on the world could be in that. It has interviews with Elon Musk and a whole range of people at the forefront. Dinners like this is, once again, this is not a lot of theory. This is actually a lot of discussions that are going on in the world. But you need to get your critical thinking game up to a whole new level in the world that we're living in. You need to see AI not as a technology external to you. It is part of everything that we're doing. And how can you incorporate it into your life? And with that, if you want to reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn, there's my QR code, takes you NZ365 guy, my LinkedIn profile. Happy to engage. I've actually got a WhatsApp group that has over 150 people in it that I only started 2 weeks ago, and that's how many people have joined it on LinkedIn. And we're just discussing AI, anything about AI, whether it's in your personal life or whatever. It's not, it's not about talking about specific product apps or solutions. It's about how am I going to start evolving in my AI. I've got people from all over the world that's joined that group. I get about 10 to 15 people sign up each day in that WhatsApp group. If you want it, hit me up on LinkedIn, ask me, and I'll make sure I flick you the link. And with that, Victor, I'll hand back to you, sir.
No, this is amazing. If this talk doesn't get people fired up, I don't know what will. Uh, we are really surfing this wave as we speak. I mean, in fact, I'm part of the Apple beta test team for iOS, and I got an update on Apple Intelligence, and even the way to operate the phone changed a lot in just one minor update. So we are truly surfing this wave. It's not something that's coming up in a month or two or a year or two or 10 years from now. This is already here. And, to your point with your neighbor, she felt ashamed of using a little bit of AI to help her. I remember my dad is an electrical engineer. I remember, when he was getting ready to retire, actually, when I was getting into the late stage of elementary school, his company, which was a big state company down south in South America, was starting to use software and computers and all that. And I remember he was saying, look, everything that these guys are doing with the computer now, I can do it by hand, and I can be better. I'll be more precise because of my expertise. And then, just a few years later, I remember him coming back and said, look, there's just no way we can match the speed of change and the requirements of our employers if we don't use the tools available. So I see AI as a set of tools. Of course, it is a big jump in the way that we did things with just creating software as a way to enhance performance. But in the end, it is still a set of tools, and we need to be prepared, and we need to ride really this wave and to reap the benefits thereof. So I'm excited for it. I was super excited to hear your talk. I know some folks will watch it or are watching on LinkedIn on demand, and some will watch on YouTube and other channels. Um, Scan the QR code, get in contact with Mark. He runs lots of programs that will help you, that will take your career forward. It's just a great guy to be connected with. Very, very smart person in this market, and I would advise you to connect as soon as possible. My friend Mark, I know it's probably getting late for you, or maybe it's getting late for me, but I wanted to thank you for closing this mentorship session on AI. We couldn't haven't chosen someone better than you. You are the perfect match for this one lesson. I will send information to the folks who are registered in the program on how you can get started with the Microsoft AI Challenge. It's open until the end of January, and when you complete it, you'll be able to get a voucher for certification. So I would encourage you to do that as well. Friends, all of the lessons are available online on the Zero to Hero YouTube channel. We'll make sure to share it on our newsletter and let everybody know how they can profit from the recordings and all the other material that we made available during the program. My friend Mark, once again, thank you so much. And Merry Christmas to you and to your family. And I hope to see you around soon. All right. All right. Take care, everyone. We'll see you.